I'm fairly confident the majority of people who tuned in for the most recent Nintendo Direct were very shocked to see Smash Bros. Announced at the finale. I too was part of that camp, as I thought it was the biggest surprise of the entire event, outside of there being still no news for Fire Emblem Switch.
What the hell was that crap?
Please don't misunderstand me, I was incredibly happy to witness the reveal, as a new Smash Bros. Game means new possibilities for stages, music, modes, improvements, and most importantly, characters. I simply adore the thought of being able to play as brand new fighters in each new iteration of Smash, and the mountains of speculation that comes with it. And seeing how just about everyone and their mother has given their 2 cents about who they'd like for Smash Bros. Switch, I felt it was my time to hop aboard the hype train as well. However, the top 10 carriage really wasn't for me, so I'm upgrading my tickets to top 15. So join me everyone, as I'm off to gather who I hope become the newest members of the Smash Bros. Family, as I count down my top 15 characters I'd love to see in Super Smash Bros. Switch. It goes without saying, but yes, this list is purely my opinion, and it has nothing, I repeat, nothing to do with the most likely characters to get in or which ones are best suited for Smash Bros. This is just characters I want in regardless of likelihood. The returning characters don't count, and I'm not going to do the whole one character per franchise rule. I will be keeping to the rule of must originate from a video game and must be featured on a Nintendo console, so sorry no popular choices like Goku, Naruto, Optimus Prime, or Shrek. Yeah, I don't get it either. And with all that cleared up, I think it's time for these 15 fighters to get ready for the most important audition of their lives, because becoming part of the Super Smash Bros. Series is the best thing that could ever happen to them. Dark Samus. Figures I'd be starting this list off with a Metroid rep, considering it's my favourite Nintendo franchise, and after Samus returns along with Prime Force soon to arrive, it's gonna stay that way. Sorry Fire Emblem. So with Metroid making a triumphant return, I'd love for more individuals from this universe to enter the fray, which is precisely where Dark Samus comes in, as she plays a crucial role in the Prime series and is in my opinion one of the most unique Dark Doppelgangers out there. Not to mention having stages like the Impact Crater, Phase, or a dimension-shifting Ether would make for incredibly stylistic and mesmerizing arenas to fight on, and it could act as a good way to generate hype for Prime 4. I can't bear to see Metroid go into hibernation again. Concerning Dark Samus' performance in the ring, she already has an assist trophy to set the foundation, and by using this as a template, I personally would make Dark Samus function as a zoning type character. Someone that focuses on controlling the opponent's space and fighting at a distance. Think Celica from Killer Instinct if you will. I can easily imagine Dark Samus having many standard attacks with extended hitboxes, giving her that extra reach in case people get too close, and dealing additional damage at the tail end of her attacks. On top of that, I reckon her moves will primarily consist of single strikes rather than dealing multiple hits, to keep people at bay instead of locking them in place. The same applies to her smash attacks, which I felt could function similarly to the Mii Gunner, firing a short burst of phase on, using balls of energy or mini explosions to cover her upper half, creating two phase-type pillars to attack from both directions. You get the idea. Moving on to special moves, I would personally suggest extracting the attacks she performs in her boss fights to give her that sense of authenticity. Picture, if you will, Dark Samus using a barrage of phase-on bullets that can be held down for extra damage much like Bayonetta, shooting phase-on powered missiles, a boost ball dash to make for a quick surprise attack and to escape sticky situations, creating a phase-on shield to absorb energy attacks, summoning a wall of phase-on that doesn't hurt opponents but pushes them back and reflects projectiles, a good edge guarding tool, and finally a quick charge into the air that if held down sends her crashing towards the ground, with her final smash either hurling a Leviathan meteor into the stage or summoning clones of herself or the Aurora unit to attack the other players. I think this fighting style fits Dark Samus to a T, but in order to make her balanced, I would ensure that she's rather weak at close range, with her moves having a decent amount of build up, emphasizing the need to focus on distance and not just popping off attacks at random, and overall I think she'd be a great addition to the roster. Or Nintendo could just be lazy and make her a clone. They're not exactly reluctant to do so.
What the hell is your guys' problem?
Shantae. Third-party fighters are to me one of the best things about Smash Bros, and considering how well they've turned out thus far, only makes me hungry for more, and I feel summoning Shantae into Smash would be a good way to satisfy my appetite. For those who don't know, Shantae started life on the Game Boy Color and has since been featured on a variety of Nintendo systems, so I believe she would be a good choice for a third party and simultaneously indie rep due to her status. It also helps that Shantae and her world are very bouncy and full of energy, so it goes without saying that she'll blend in seamlessly with Smash Bros, especially since having stages based on the luscious locations within Sequin Land, with pirates running amok in the background, being accompanied by music that makes me want to get up and dance, would turn standard standard multiplayer sessions into a sea of madness and mayhem, just the way I like it. This also applies to gameplay, as I'd argue Shantae's moves and abilities were practically designed with Smash in mind, performing similarly to Mega Man and Villager, in the sense that most of her attacks are pulled from her games and are slightly unorthodox, but ultimately very fun and creative to mess around with. For standard moves, I'm confident in having Shantae use her hair as a primary form of offense, considering that's what she does best. Think Miller Rage from Guilty Gear, only simplified, giving her decent range despite her size, and a good amount of surface coverage to help make her relatively well-rounded. Special moves and smash attacks are where things could get a bit more fancy, as Shantae very often uses animal transformations throughout her adventures, so I can easily picture her busting those out when need be, preferably for smash attacks to give them that real oomph. However, during Shantae and the Pirate's Curse, the half-genie hero was able to utilize risky boots equipment, which I would love to see implemented. Using Mermaid Bubble or her pistol attack from a distance that can be charged but not for too long or it will backfire, ramming into enemies with her sword or monkey bullet that moves fast and hits hard but is dangerous near edges, cannon blasting from above that can be fired up to 3 times for both extra recovery and attacks, transforming into a harpy for controlled flight, turning into a tree to become temporarily invincible and crash onto her opponents from above, going all Scrooge McDuck and sword hopping off other players' heads, performing the elephant stomp to stun those who get too close, and of course I can't forget pulling out her magic lamp to suck in projectiles and items to either store or neutralize, and for her final smash, she does her mystical dance and screen nukes those who just can't handle her performance. In my eyes, this version of Shantae would be an exceedingly fun character to play as, rather straightforward and basic, but having a lot of imaginative moves that allow her to stand out and bring even more livelihood to this game, which to me is the only way forward. Celica. Oh look, a Fire Emblem character made it onto the list. I didn't see that one coming. Being serious here, despite having 6 representatives, I'd still be down for even more Fire Emblem heroes making it into Smash, with Celica being one of my top choices. As of the time of this video's publication, Fire Emblem Echoes is the most recent main series Fire Emblem game, starring the 2 protagonists Arm, and more importantly, Celica, who primarily thanks to her magical abilities and more popular status is my preferred choice, and by doing so opens up the opportunity to fight on stages like Rudolph's Castle or Duma's Altar, along with a brilliant soundtrack to accompany the ensuing battles, so I'm all for it. I mean sure, there's the FE16 protagonist, but I'm ruling that out due to a current lack of information, and as for other magic-based lords, there is Micaiah, but honestly, nah. As mentioned previously, Celica is well versed in the arcane arts and is also capable of wielding a sword. Honestly, who isn't at this point? So it goes without saying that making her a Robin clone is more than likely the first thing that comes to people's minds. Granted, while I definitely think she should take inspiration from the tenacious tactician, I'd like to propose a far more inventive solution. The idea I have for Celica is for her to, like Robin, use both swords and magic. However, Celica's fighting style would focus on rush-down gameplay, being fast on her feet, having quick sword swipes, and hard-hitting magical moves that don't disappear. Basically, a glass cannon. If it were up to me, her sword attacks would predominantly be assigned to Celica's standard moves that, though having short range and not much knockback, are very fast and allow for a good number of combos a la Meta Knight, encouraging players to get in close and rack up the damage. Once that's done, Celica then brings out the big guns, with her smash attacks and special moves, the latter of which would be the spell she learns throughout Echoes. I can envision Celica thrusting her sword straight forward with an explosion at the end, having her spin in place and create a vortex of fire, raise her sword to the Goddess Miller where a large pillar of fire erupts on the ground similar to Palutena. Special attacks would be Celica's proverbial ace in the hole, flinging a fireball that can be charged until it becomes a devastatingly powerful Seraphim Blast, sending out Excalibur to function like a weaker version of the Ore Club that reflects projectiles, striking from above with Thunder where a shadow travels along the ground and then assaults its victim, using Recover to gain back a small percentage of HP Wii Fit Trainer style, and transporting herself back onto the stage with Rescue or something along those lines. And once she gets that Smash Ball, she lets loose the almighty Ragnarok, in which everybody burns. I'd argue that this potential version of Celica takes an already unique character and adds a twist to become both different yet authentic at the same time. But because she's a glass cannon, Celica would have to be very frail and easy to launch, thus putting more emphasis on overpowering the opponents and defeating them before they get a chance to fight back, because there ain't no Miller's turn wheel in this game. Viridi. Kid Icarus Uprising was quite the return to form for our little angel. Yes, the game isn't perfect as it has many issues. Who thought thought these controls were a good idea. This shit hurts! But the game was able to excel in a vast amount of areas and introduce some brilliant new characters, one of my favourites being the goddess of nature Viridi, whom I feel should get her time to shine, as her presence would add so much joy to an already ridiculous game that I would play as her just for the lols. After all, she was no stranger to interrupting Palutena's guidance and got her own stage in the 3DS version. I mean, yeah, she's not the most well-known face in Nintendo's library, but neither are these lot. At this point, anything's possible, and I think we can do better than a mere costume. When deliberating over Viridi's battle properties, I came to the conclusion that she could potentially make for one of the most peculiar and simultaneously fascinating participants in Smash Bros. If the moveset I have in mind takes root. Since Viridi is the goddess of nature, it goes without saying that a lot of her attacks will be plant-themed, so I think it's time Viridi put that staff to good use, and by making it the source of her standard and smash attacks, could give her solid coverage for one so small. With that said, I personally would make the attack animations very fancy and unwieldy, in the sense that at the offset, they seem strange and difficult to understand and pull off, but once the player gets the grasp of them, they can be very effective at staggering her opponents and throwing them for a loop, which is an underlying theme I wish to implement into Viridi's playstyle. Moving on to her special moves, that's where this little one's role as the goddess of nature can come into play, because I can easily see Viridi being a trap-based fighter, utilising many sneak attacks and status-based moves that can royally screw over the opponents, much like Bowser Jr. and Duck Hunt duo. Or better yet, think Rachel Alucard from BlazBlue as a more fitting example, only this little one isn't a loudmouth. What I have in mind is for Viridi to use the forces of nature as an extension of her abilities. Stuff like planting bomb stompers that grow and then crush her foes, sending bumpity bombs along the ground that detonate upon contact, having hugworms slither through the dirt and trap the opponents in their coils, deploying dibble drops to absorb projectiles and shoot them back, having Nutskis pick her up and fly her to safety only to fall to the ground and explode upon impact, baiting the player into attacking a toxic cap which then spews poison, and so on, with her reset bomb being her final smash of course. I firmly believe this concept offers limitless possibilities that could allow Viridi to be one of the most imitable fighters in the game, and have a very niche playstyle that is considerably difficult to understand at first, yet exceptionally potent if used correctly, and if the player is able to completely master the forces of nature, then I can easily see Viridi being in the God tier.
Ugh, do you ever get tired of being such a nerd?
Rex and Pyrrha. I'm very happy to see the Xenoblade series going into one of Nintendo's more successful franchises. After all, the games are amazing. Or at least the ones I've played are, as I actually haven't got around to Xenoblade 2 yet. Why exactly? Reasons. But lack of real-time experience notwithstanding, I've been through more than enough gameplay videos and wiki articles to theorize how I'd make the stars of Xenoblade 2 function in Smash Bros, and have no trouble picturing them showing up in the roster, and more importantly symbolizing just how much this series has grown. Rex and Pyrrha I can see as being some of the more likely characters to be featured in Smash Bros. Switch, as Xenoblade 2 is a very recent first-party exclusive for the Switch, so the timing is otherwise perfect. And if that's the case, then getting other Blades and party members as assist trophies, stages based on the different titans, and some of that sweet soundtrack would make for a very delightful package. Plus, because of the kid-friendly, to an extent, anime-esque art style, I think they'd look right at home in Smash, even more so than Shulk for that matter. Perhaps they'll be the ones to replace him.
Not good!
As far as battle properties go, I initially pictured Rex to be a sword fighter similar to Shulk for obvious reasons, though I personally would add some more punches and kicks to make him feel that tad different and more straightforward, and for the extra attention to detail, have his art serve as the backbone for most of his moves. So far so good, but when getting a bit more technical, there were two fighters in particular I felt would be ideal to get Pyrrha in on the action, those being the Ice Climbers and Zelda. Sort of. The Ice Climbers template is pretty self-explanatory. Rex and Pyrrha fight as a duo with the player controlling the former. From there you can pretty much put together how they would play, with Pyrrha being ideal for pulling off certain combos and a key component of Rex's special attacks. In fact, why not throw some Rosalina magic in there and have ways to send Pyrrha to the forefront and call her back, allowing for even more battle opportunities. Now as for the Zelda version, the idea for this one derives from a Phantom Slash attack. I applied this concept to Rex and Pyrrha by having the latter only appear for special or smash attacks, which I felt could make for a very cool set of fighters that feels more reminiscent of Xenoblade 2. You can have Flame Nova to absorb projectiles and give Rex a temporary power boost, Blazing Edge to deal heavy damage, Burning Sword would have tons of knockback and coverage, and Prominous Revolt to act as recovery and an escape attack, with their final smash being a chain attack, or perhaps Pyrrha turns into Mythra for a super boost. This version is my personal preference about how they would be integrated into Smash, and would also make Rex a character players have to exercise caution with, because even though Pyrrha is very powerful, if she sustains too much damage while deployed, she'll be unusable for a while, causing Rex's special attacks to outright fail, which in the worst case scenario spells disaster. But whichever option comes to pass is fine by me. You can never have enough Xenoblade in your life. Girahim. One of the things I'm sure many of us noticed is that the last Smash Bros. Game features a significant increase in the female representation, which I was all for. So for me personally, I feel the next step is to give the bad guys some love. And though the Zelda series has many villains, I don't think any of them would make for a more fabulous fighter than Girahim. While some other choices like the Skull Kid and Zant are by all means strong contenders, and Breath of the Wild is the more relevant Zelda game, Girahim, despite not being the ultimate evil in Skyward Sword, had enough charisma to span the entire galaxy, and was in my opinion one of the best and most memorable characters in the game. Plus, having stages based on the different dungeons or the sealed temple would only add to his charm. Just be sure he doesn't do anything to warrant an M rating. Due to the Demon Lord's provocative and self-absorbed mannerisms, it's not difficult for me to visualize Girahim as the type of fighter who's built around taunting and tricking his opponent into letting their guard down and then hitting them where it hurts. Thanks to Smash Bros on the Wii U, there's already an established example of how he would fight, a sword fighter with the ability to teleport around the map. I have no quarrels with this, as it makes him great for catching the enemy off guard and delivering devastating surprise attacks. Therefore, his standard moves will not be very strong or have much knockback either, but come out very quickly to stagger his foes and cut their attacks short, with his smash attacks having him pull out that second sword for some real damage. However, I think we can take it one step further, with a little bit of magic for his special moves. Being able to witness Girahim summon flying daggers that surround him, which he can then fire, but if he waits too long disappear, having a swift dash followed up by a powerful side slash, holding out his hand to halt his opponent's attack and causing them to stagger, teleporting behind his foes with his swords ready for a counter-attack if they take a swing at him, and recovering by vanishing into the air, which then leads into a swift downward stab if the player wishes. For his final smash, he either summons Demise or transforms into his true state, where his attack power gets a huge boost. To me, this would give Girahim quite the edge over his opponents and suit his character to a T, baiting players into attacking him only to punish them very harshly for it, and simultaneously give him a very high skill ceiling, as timing is everything and miscalculations can be fatal. You can't afford to show mercy with this bad boy. Wonder Red. It's a shame the Wii U underperformed the way it did. I mean, the console wasn't perfect since the hardware was outdated upon arrival, and the advertising was the most embarrassing thing to happen in the video game since EA. But I felt the little thing had many positives, and one of the most wonderful was the Wonderful 101, with the main man Wonder Red being the hero I think Smash deserves and the one it needs. The world of the Wonderful 101 is about as comic book, tongue-in-cheek, flashy and over-the-top as you can get. After all, it's made by Platinum. So it would be a crime not having the likes of Wonder Red bringing his sense of justice to Smash, especially since music from his game was featured in the Super Mario Galaxy stage. Also, having some other wonderful ones as assist trophies, and extra arenas where cities are destroyed and giant robots run amok doesn't sound like a bad idea. Not to mention, Nintendo and Platinum have been on very good terms recently. So I think this would be a nice way of saying, thanks for having faith in our console that we forgot existed and didn't even bother to promote, causing this game to perform poorly in sales. Still friends? As Platinum Games' sleeper hit is primarily a beat-em-up, I would have it that most of the regular attacks are reminiscent of Wonder Red's arsenal, and having a fighting style similar to Game & Watch, where his Unite morphs form various different shapes and have a wide degree of hitboxes, giving him a hefty amount of attacking options, not to mention some of the Mii Brawler thrown into the mix for that extra punch. That's all well and good, but the special and smash attacks are where he's going to need some backup in the form of the other wonderful ones. Imagine, if you will, using Unite Claws to attack from both sides and apply freezing damage, forming Unite Glider for a safe landing, pulling a Samus and using Unite Whip for long range grabs, firing the crossbow, goggles or gun as a means of a ranged attack, reflecting projectiles with the Naginata, hurling Unite Bombs that upon detonation cause the opponent to slow down, slicing through the competition with Unite Sword, literally bringing the house down with Unite Hammer, piercing the heavens with Unite Drill, etc. This could give Wonder Red so many opportunities for distinct and diverse moves that add to his legitimacy and make the battlefield a sanctum of chaos. However, they should come at a cost, for if he were to spam his special and smash attacks too much, his Unite gauge will deplete and leave him with only his vanilla form, bestowing a sense of risk versus reward, with the greatest reward being his final smash, where the Platinum Robot comes in to save the day with a big fat fuck you laser to the face.
Taste the rainbow, motherfucker!
Geno. Ah, if it isn't one of the most requested and beloved characters from the cult classic Super Mario RPG. This wooden puppet has remained one of the most standout residents within the Mario universe and is an all-around brilliant party member. So if Geno is able to be featured in Smash Bros. Switch, not only will it result in one of the most covert-looking characters in the roster, along with getting iconic locations, tracks and other entities from one of the best games on the Super Nintendo, but his inclusion would also be a very nice way of representing the spin-off side of the Mario series, which there is plenty of. Again, I don't think just an outfit is good enough. In fact, if Geno does make it into Smash Switch, we might get Super Mario RPG 2. No, we won't. I can dream, damn it! Even though getting Geno into Smash is a huge and complicated undertaking, designing a moveset for this magical mannequin would be far less demanding. At least that's what I think. I always imagined Geno having a lot of magical base attacks for his projectiles, and physical attacks with extended hitboxes, so basing him around the likes of Ness and Lucas is where I would start. For standard and smash attacks, I believe applying his primary actions in Super Mario RPG to be the ideal solution, where Geno would use his body to attack in a variety of ways that function similarly to Mega Man's down air and the villager's forward air, which would automatically make Geno very faithful to his roots and give him a significant amount of reach in order to control his opponent's spacing and strike first before they're getting close. So far, I like what's being presented before us, but his special attacks can function as a way of implementing a key mechanic from Super Mario RPG, timed button presses. Consider, if you will, holding down the B button to charge Geno Blast and letting go at just the right moment for maximum damage, but if held too long it outright fails or hits for piss. Sending Geno Wild across the stage at supersonic speed that by itself is very weak. If the button is pressed at just the right moment, the damage becomes critical. Using Geno Boost that can be amplified if the player gets the timing right, and executing Geno Blast which sends magic straight down to propel Geno up, with a second beam being added if the player presses the button at just the right moment. And finally sending everyone out with a bang with his final smash, Geno Flash. By doing this, Geno would be extremely dangerous in the hands of an expert, and also have one of the highest skill ceilings in the game, not to mention a decent amount of wind up before launching attacks, but that just goes to show how much skill is needed to unlock his full potential. He's not called a Star Warrior for nothing, you know. Unfortunately, that's all we have time for today. Be sure to tune in for part 2 where I go through the remaining 7 characters I want to see the most in Super Smash Bros. Switch. And please be sure to like, comment, share and subscribe and click the little bell to know exactly when the new videos are coming out. I'd like to take this time to say a huge thank you to all my patrons that help support the channel and make these videos possible. Thank you all so much for your constant love and support. And shoutouts go to Chaos Saberlai, Justin Kolovich, Samuel Line, Nate Perkins, Vanessa Westfall, Patanko Fan 32, Tivis James Little 4, Almond, Vinton Clark, Jeremy Redinger, Midnight Castle, Maggie Fall, The Main Idea, Perfect Oblivion, Verolinate392, and Zenny Dragon. Once again, thank you all so much from the bottom of my heart. And if you'd like to go the extra mile, please consider donating to my Patreon to help support and improve the channel, along with getting some very nice bonuses I hope will be worth your much appreciated investment. Anyway, that's it from me. I'll see you all next time.